In today's world, everyone is talking. Everyone is sharing their every thought online, announcing their every move, broadcasting their emotions for strangers to see. Noise has become normal. Transparency is treated like a virtue. And yet hidden inside all of this noise is a truth few people recognize. The most powerful advantage in human interaction is not what you say, it's what you don't say. Strategic silence. Most people think silence means weakness. They rush to explain, defend, or fill the void. But the rare person who can stay quiet, who can hold back when others overshare, carries an invisible weapon. While the crowd is busy talking about winning, this person is already winning. Niccolò Machiavelli, the Florentine political thinker from the 16th century, understood this better than anyone. Though he's often remembered for the ruthless advice in The Prince, some of his sharpest insights were about restraint, about the things a leader should never reveal. He once wrote, "The vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances." He knew that speech creates appearances, but silence preserves reality. Think about that for a second. Words trap you. They create commitments. They expose your weaknesses. They tell the world how your mind works. But silence keeps you free. Let's break this down. First, silence protects your ability to adapt. When you announce your intentions, you're tied to them. If you change course, people call you inconsistent, dishonest, or weak. But if you keep your plans to yourself, you can pivot at any moment without needing to justify or apologize. Silence keeps you mobile. Second, silence hides your limitations. Every time you explain yourself, every time you argue your case, you show others how you think. That gives them tools to predict you, to manipulate you, or to counter your moves. Machiavelli once said that the intelligence of a ruler can be measured by the men around him. In the same way, the intelligence of a strategist can often be measured by how much they reveal. The more you speak, the more you give away. Third, silence builds mystique, and mystique builds authority. Machiavelli famously wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved." Fear depends on distance, and distance depends on mystery. A leader who explains every decision, justifies every choice, and reveals every thought quickly becomes ordinary, and the ordinary are never feared. You can see this everywhere today. The coworker who feels the need to weigh in on every topic during a meeting, the friend who constantly posts every detail of their life online, the negotiator who panics when the silence gets heavy and ends up offering concessions just to fill the air. The more they talk, the less they're respected. Now, here's the key. Machiavellian silence isn't just about keeping your mouth shut. It's about using silence deliberately. It's not absence. It's strategy. And it comes in three distinct forms. The first type is information-gathering silence. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The fool speaks immediately, rushing to reveal their position. The wise man stays quiet, watching, listening, letting others expose themselves first. Whoever speaks first loses. That's true in negotiations, in arguments, even in relationships. The person who can remain still while others talk uncontrollably collects valuable intelligence and gives up nothing in return. The second type is authority-building silence. Machiavelli taught that a prince must be both fox and lion. Part of the fox's cunning is knowing when speech dilutes authority instead of strengthening it. Humans naturally fill gaps with assumptions. When you leave space, they often imagine strength, wisdom, or confidence. That's why the most powerful people in any room are usually the quietest. The junior employee rambles. The CEO speaks once and the meeting is over. The insecure explain. The confident state. The third type is ambiguity-preserving silence. This is when silence lets you play both sides, letting others project their hopes or fears onto you. Politicians do this all the time. They leave their words vague enough that everyone hears what they want to hear. Negotiators do it when they avoid making concrete commitments too early. Leaders do it when they cast a vision without locking themselves into unnecessary detail. It's not lying. It's refusing to kill your options with premature clarity. Strategic silence is more than just tactical. It's psychological. It bends the way people think and feel around you. Silence creates projection spaces. People project their insecurities, their fears, their expectations into your stillness. Silence establishes dominance. The one who talks least often sits in the judge's chair while others scramble for approval. And silence builds mystique. What's ordinary is fully exposed. What's mysterious always looks larger, stronger, more dangerous. And yet modern culture keeps telling us the opposite. It tells you to be authentic, to speak openly, to share everything. But as Machiavelli warned, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Binding yourself to every word you've ever spoken is not authenticity, it's suicide. That's why he would say, don't win by unnecessary disclosure when you can win by silence. So, how does this actually play out in daily life? Let's bring it down from theory to practice. Think about your workplace. You've probably seen someone who talks in every meeting, weighing in on every single issue. At first, people notice them. But over time, their constant input becomes background noise. Their words lose weight because they're everywhere. Then there's another figure, maybe a manager, maybe an executive who speaks rarely. But when they do, the room shifts. People lean in. Their silence before speaking builds gravity. Now think about your social life. The friend who shares every detail of their life online becomes predictable. The mystery is gone. Compare that to the friend who posts rarely, who reveals little. Suddenly, people speculate. They wonder what's happening behind the curtain. Their absence creates a tension that endless posting never could. And in negotiation, the person who fills every pause, who rushes to close the silence with concessions, always loses leverage. The one who can sit still, let the silence breathe, and force the other side to break first. He's the one who usually wins. Machiavelli would laugh at our modern obsession with constant communication. He wouldn't see it as honesty or authenticity. He'd see it as malpractice, voluntarily handing over information without receiving anything in return. So, let's break down the three silences again, but with sharper edges. 1. Information gathering silence. The goal is simple. Let them reveal first. Ask questions, then go quiet. Don't rush to answer. Don't try to prove how smart you are. Let them talk themselves into exposure. Every moment they speak, they give you material. 2. Authority-building silence. This is about presence. You don't waste words on every trivial matter. You choose when to speak, and when you do, it's decisive. The fewer explanations you give, the stronger your words become. People stop treating you as someone trying to be right and start treating you as someone who simply is right. 3. Ambiguity-preserving silence. This is the art of refusing to be pinned down. You let others project onto you. They fill in the blanks with their own assumptions. They wonder, does he agree with me or not? Is he with us or against us? That uncertainty forces them to play cautiously around you. Silence is not empty. Silence is loaded. Psychologically, it works in three powerful ways. First, projection. When you say nothing, others reveal themselves. They can't help it. Silence makes people uncomfortable, so they rush to fill it with their fears, their justifications, their secrets. Skilled interrogators know this. Sometimes they don't ask questions at all. They just stay quiet until the suspect can't stand it anymore and blurts out the truth. The same principle works in daily conversations and negotiations. Second, dominance. The person who talks the most is often seeking approval. The person who talks the least is signaling, "I don't need approval from anyone." That shifts the dynamic. People start to treat you not as a peer, but as a judge, someone whose opinion matters because it's not given cheaply. Third, mystique. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, because everyone sees, but few can touch. What can't be fully seen appears stronger. The person who reveals every thought, every insecurity, every plan, they become ordinary. But the one who shares selectively, who withholds deliberately, becomes extraordinary. People respect what they can't fully read. This is why, in leadership, silence often beats speeches. The leader who explains every single detail demystifies himself. He puts himself on the same level as everyone else. But the leader who states his decision plainly, without justification, leaves people guessing. How did he arrive at that? What else is he planning? That guessing game amplifies his authority. Now, let's confront the modern myth. Transparency. Today, people act like transparency is always good, always noble, always virtuous. Share your truth. Be open. Communicate. But Machiavelli saw the trap in this centuries ago. Transparency binds you to your past words. It ties your future actions to declarations you no longer control. It's not that Machiavelli wanted you to lie. He wanted you to choose your words as carefully as a king chooses allies. Share only what moves you forward. Withhold what doesn't. Say less than necessary, always. He once advised, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." In our terms, never try to win by disclosure what you could win by silence. This is where most people fail. They reveal their plans too early. They explain their emotions too much. They apologize before anyone asked. They tell the world exactly what they intend to do, giving their opponents the roadmap to counter them. And the result? They lose before the real game even begins. Strategic silence flips the board. It makes others reveal while you stay unreadable. It turns discomfort into leverage. It makes your absence louder than their noise. And when you master it, you stop begging for respect. You stop asking to be understood. You start commanding space simply by holding it. Let's go deeper into the discipline of silence. Because silence is not just about shutting your mouth. It's about mastering yourself. Most people can't stand silence. They panic when a room goes quiet. They start talking just to escape the discomfort. And that's why silence is power. Because it reveals who's in control of themselves and who isn't. If you can sit in silence, you control the tempo. You decide when things move forward, not them. So here's how to put Machiavelli's strategy of silence into action. Step 1. Practice information asymmetry. Before you reveal where you stand, you need to know where they stand. Too many people rush into conversations, arguments, and negotiations, announcing their position before the other side has shown their hand. That's suicide. Instead, start with questions. Observe. Let them speak first. Let them explain themselves. Don't rush to respond. Machiavelli compared politics to hunting. The fox survives not by charging blindly, but by waiting, sniffing out the trap. The fox's cunning begins with silence. This applies everywhere. In business deals, in workplace politics, even in personal relationships. The one who knows more and reveals less always holds the stronger position. Step 2. Cultivate strategic ambiguity. When people try to box you in, don't let them. You don't need to give a final answer every time someone asks. You don't need to reveal your timeline, your exact motives, or your next move. Strategic ambiguity isn't lying. It's leaving room. It's maintaining freedom. Machiavelli warned that clarity at the wrong time is a trap. A ruler, he said, should be slow to act, slow to commit. That slowness preserves freedom. So instead of boxing yourself in with specifics, you can speak in principles. I'm considering options. That's interesting. Let me think about it. You reveal enough to keep people engaged, but not enough to be pinned down. Step 3. Embrace silence as a power move. Most people see silence as awkward. They rush to fill it. That's why silence works. Because the one who can hold it makes the other side uncomfortable enough to make mistakes. In negotiations, state your terms, then shut up. Don't weaken your position by adding qualifiers. Let the silence do the work. In arguments, listen all the way through before you respond, if you respond at all. In leadership, give decisions without padding them with endless justifications. Silence in those moments is not absence. It's presence. Think about predators in the wild. They don't move frantically. They don't roar before the strike. They wait. They watch. They pounce only when the time is perfect. That's what silence trains you to do. Now let's talk about why silence is so devastating psychologically. First, it creates projection spaces. People can't stand not knowing what you're thinking. They start to imagine it. They assume. And in those assumptions, they reveal their own priorities, their own fears. They confess without realizing it. Second, it establishes dominance. In communication, the one who talks less is usually the one with higher status. Think about it. Kings don't chatter. Generals don't ramble. The judge doesn't need to justify himself. He simply declares the verdict. The one who can stay silent holds the higher ground. Third, it creates mystique. What's ordinary is visible. What's extraordinary is unseen. The person who reveals nothing becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is terrifying. Because you can prepare for what you know, but you can't prepare for what you don't. That's why Machiavelli would never advise total transparency. He knew that in politics, as in life, mystery is leverage. Modern culture gets this wrong. It worships transparency. It tells you to share everything, to show every flaw, to wear your heart on your sleeve. But that's not authenticity. It's exposure. Transparency makes you predictable. Predictable makes you weak. Here's the Machiavellian alternative. You don't need to hide everything, but you must choose what to reveal. Reveal only what strengthens your position. Withhold what makes you vulnerable. Speak when words give you leverage. Stay silent when they don't. It's not deception. It's discipline. That's why silence is rare today. It requires restraint in a culture of impulse. It requires patience in a world of speed. It requires confidence in a world addicted to approval. And because it's rare, it's powerful. The loud are forgettable. The quiet are unforgettable. Silence creates a contrast people can't ignore. So here's the challenge. Start paying attention to when you talk. How often do you explain yourself when you didn't need to? How often do you announce plans before they're ready? How often do you defend when no one asked? Every unnecessary word is a leak of power, and the one who patches those leaks, who chooses silence with precision, becomes someone others can't quite grasp. And what can't be grasped can't be controlled. Let's turn now to the battlefield where silence proves its worth the most. Conflict. When someone criticizes you, insults you, or disrespects you, what's the instinct? To fight back, to argue, to defend. That's what almost everyone does. And it's exactly what strips them of power. Because the moment you react, you've already handed control of the frame to the other person. Machiavelli would tell you, never let your enemies dictate the tempo. Silence lets you flip the game. When someone insults you, silence makes them look louder, weaker, more desperate. When someone challenges you, silence forces them to keep swinging at shadows. When someone tries to provoke you, silence tells them their bait failed. And the audience watching? They notice who lost composure and who didn't. Silence is not ignoring. It's enforcement. It's letting the other side reveal themselves fully while you remain untouchable. Now, this doesn't mean silence is always enough. Sometimes silence must be combined with surgical words. But here's the difference. When you do choose to speak, your words hit like steel, because they are rare, because they are chosen, because they are backed by the silence that came before. That's why Machiavelli emphasized restraint. The more you talk, the more chances you give people to decode you. The less you talk, the more they lean in. Think of the difference between two types of leaders. One explains every single detail, every choice, every motive. The other states the decision, then moves on. Who commands more respect? The second, because he doesn't invite debate. His silence after the decision is what makes the decision final. Let's break this down into 3 domains. In negotiations, silence after stating your offer is deadly. Most people can't stand it. They'll rush to fill the void, often weakening their own position. The one who holds silence longest wins. In leadership, silence after giving a direction prevents unnecessary arguments. It signals confidence. It tells others, this is the way forward. No justification required. In relationships, silence after disrespect shows strength. Not passive aggression, but presence through absence. Instead of chasing, explaining, or begging to be seen, you withdraw energy. That withdrawal teaches the other side more than words ever could. Machiavelli would say this: the moment you explain yourself to someone who doesn't deserve an explanation, you've already lost. And yet, in modern culture, people are addicted to explaining. They think if they just talk enough, they'll convince others. But persuasion is rarely about volume. It's about gravity, and silence has gravity. Now let's examine how silence interacts with fear and love. The classic Machiavellian dilemma. He wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." Fear requires distance, and distance is created by silence. Think about it. The people you fear are not the ones you know everything about. They're the ones you can't quite read, the ones whose motives you don't fully understand, the ones who don't explain themselves. That's why mystique is so powerful. And mystique is born in silence. But silence is not always cold. Sometimes it's strategic ambiguity, letting different people believe different things about you. Politicians do this all the time. They leave their positions vague enough that both sides can see what they want to see. Machiavelli himself advised princes to maintain flexibility, to avoid binding themselves too tightly to any one path. In your own life, this works the same way. If you don't declare every detail of your intentions, you stay free. Free to adjust. Free to pivot. free to seize opportunity without being accused of inconsistency. Premature clarity is a cage. Silence keeps the door open. And here's the final irony. The ones who master silence are rarely recognized for it. Because noise gets noticed, loud voices draw attention. Transparent people look authentic. But behind the curtain, it's the quiet strategist who often holds the real leverage. The person who says less, reveals less, and reacts less is the one others can never quite pin down. And that uncertainty, that inability to predict, is what makes them powerful. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. The next time you want to announce your plan, stop. The next time you're tempted to defend against criticism, stay still. Say less. Do more. Because in the end, silence doesn't just protect you, it multiplies your power. But here's the part most people miss. Silence isn't just defensive, it's offensive. It creates confusion, projection, and pressure. It forces others to move while you stay anchored. It makes them spend energy while you conserve yours. And in a game of power, the one who conserves always outlasts the one who spends. We've seen how silence protects you, how it builds mystique, how it dominates conflict. Now let's talk about the daily discipline, how you actually train yourself to use silence the Machiavellian way. Rule 1. Never reveal before you observe. Whether it's a business deal, a social conversation, or a relationship, don't rush to show your cards. Ask questions. Listen carefully, not just to what's said, but to what's left unsaid. People reveal themselves when they feel comfortable, and silence creates that space. Information is the foundation of power, and the one who speaks less always gathers more. Rule 2. Don't kill your freedom with words. When you give detailed explanations about your plans, you box yourself in. You commit publicly to paths that may not serve you tomorrow. Leave your options open. Speak in principles, not details. Broad statements keep you flexible. Specifics trap you. Remember, premature clarity is not honesty. It's surrender. Rule 3. Turn silence into gravity. You don't need to argue to win. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't even need to explain to be understood. Your silence, held with discipline, becomes a force of its own. In negotiations, silence after your terms. In conflict, silence after their insult. In leadership, silence after your decision. Each pause is not empty. It's loaded. Now, let's look at the psychology behind why this works. When you're silent, people project. They fill in the blanks with their fears, their hopes, their insecurities. In that projection, they reveal more about themselves than you ever could by questioning. Machiavelli wrote that men are so simple and so driven by immediate needs that deceivers will never lack victims. Silence leverages this simplicity without you lifting a finger. Silence also flips the social hierarchy. The one who needs to be heard the most usually holds the least power. The one who can afford to say nothing often holds the most. That's why the quiet candidate in an interview sometimes gets hired over the one who talked endlessly. That's why the still, unreadable figure in a group draws the most attention. And silence creates mystique, the aura that magnifies your presence. Think about it. The people you admire most, or even fear most, are rarely the ones who explain themselves constantly. They are the ones who remain partly unreadable. Their restraint is what makes them compelling. So why do so many people fail at this? Because our culture glorifies noise. It tells you to overshare, to speak your truth, to be transparent. But Machiavelli would see that as weakness dressed up as virtue. He'd tell you your truth doesn't need to be broadcast. Your power depends on what you hold back. He once said, "The vulgar crowd is taken by appearances." In other words, most people judge by what they can see, not by what's real. So why give them everything to see? Why expose your mind to those who will use it against you? Better to let them wonder. Better to let them guess. Better to make them sweat in the silence you control. Now here's the hard part. This discipline doesn't feel natural at first. You'll want to fill the air. You'll want to explain yourself. You'll want to ease the discomfort. But the longer you hold, the stronger you grow. Silence becomes your shield, then your weapon, then your identity. When you master this, you no longer beg for respect. You radiate it. You no longer ask to be understood. You force others to interpret you. You no longer rush to win arguments. You win simply by letting the other side reveal themselves. This is why Machiavelli is so often misunderstood. People think his philosophy was only about manipulation and ruthlessness. But beneath the reputation, his insight was sharper. Power doesn't always require cruelty. Sometimes it just requires silence. In an age of noise, silence is rebellion. In a culture of oversharing, silence is strategy. In a game of power, silence is victory. So the next time you're tempted to prove yourself, resist. The next time you're asked to explain more than necessary, stop. The next time you feel the urge to fill the silence, don't. Let them talk. Let them reveal. Let them burn energy trying to read what you never showed. And when the dust settles, you'll find yourself ahead quietly, invisibly, decisively. That's what Machiavelli understood. That's how you shut up and win.